welcome to the 1% podcast. I'm your host, Alexa, and I have...
Mizai. Hey, y'all.
So today we have Philip here, one of my favorite people ever, literally. He does so many things that, you're just killing the game in general.
Yes.
So please introduce yourself a little bit.
Hey, what's going on? My name is Phil. Wear a lot of different hats depending on who you ask. I'm a business and finance consultant. I do a lot of stuff on the real estate side, from rental properties to development. I have rental cars. I do different stuff. I'm the CFO of a tech company called Render. Sit on a handful of boards like Atlanta Friendship Initiative. We work on social justice initiatives throughout the United States, and Empire Board of Realtors, which is the oldest real estate trade minority association in the United States. Also have a nonprofit that does some international work and sit as a president of the U.S. Africa Chamber of Commerce here in Atlanta.
Wow.
Dope.
You do a lot.
Facts.
You're like, I can feel it.
So this might be a personal question, but what's your age?
I'm
I was
26.
going to ask that too.
So
Yeah.
26 doing all that.
Wow.
Major.
Is that one of the buttons that like makes a noise?
Oh,
No,
no.
it's the camera. So we have two cameras.
Oh, cool.
This is your
Okay.
camera right here.
Oh,
Yeah.
what's up?
This is our camera, and then that's her camera. So
Okay.
we click it and we switch.
Ah, see, more you know.
We get
Sorry,
two
I'm
angles.
old, as you can tell.
You're
Oh,
not
okay.
old. You're 26. I wanted to ask you, so what was your first business?
My business and finance consulting company. So I started that when I was in my sophomore year of undergrad. And my
Really?
undergrad wasn't in finance or business. It was actually in public health. And then my minor was in public policy, concentrating in nonprofit leadership. Then my master's was in business and finance. But I always did a bunch of stuff around finance. Actually, I had no idea I was going to work or do anything in it. I always helped people with it, but didn't see a business out of it until my sister was actually the one, my older sister, was the one that brought it up. I was like, you're really good at this stuff. You should, create a company out of this. And I was like, okay. I can, okay. And then fast forward, a lot of stuff ended up steamrolling, and I did have a knack for it. And, yeah, I still do a lot of stuff with all my different degrees, but everything made sense. You think, you need to do one thing or you need to do one thing, but it all really compounds and makes you a really great candidate when you have different ways to look at stuff and a lot of different experiences.
Definitely the experiences, because I can tell just even 30 minutes talking to you, you've had a lot of experiences.
True.
Do you think that's where wisdom comes and understanding just from being with different people, different parts of the world?
Yeah, definitely. I've been fortunate enough to travel a bit. My family immigrated from Kenya 30-something odd years ago, but I've lived here. I've lived in South America doing programs in the Dominican Republic, lived in Greece working in hospitals out there, lived in London, lived in Kenya doing different stuff. So you get to see so much more. And I've traveled a lot around the United States and a lot for leisure, different islands and stuff. So, yeah, you get to interact and, see a lot of the world because it's so much bigger than, what we see. And sometimes we can get stuck in this bubble. And you can't condemn people for things they don't understand, but at some point you definitely want to get out there and expand your mind and see what the rest of the world looks like.
Wow.
Definitely.
Yeah. I know that you are a travel hacker. So I'm going to ask.
Yeah, what you got?
What's the hacks? What are ways that we can travel at on a budget?
Planning. So way before I understood anything about using credit card points and different stuff, it was just about figuring out what's the cheapest way to get to the beach. That was one of the things. I can remember back to times when me and a handful of friends weren't making any money and just be like, hey, what are you doing this weekend? Okay, you're not doing anything? Okay, cool. You want to go to the beach? Yeah, cool. So we'd stockpile 4 of us in the car. We'd all put up $100, get a place for the weekend, get food, and just drive out to Hilton Head or to Myrtle Beach or something and go and do it. And,
that might be our spring break.
It's
just gonna go.
nice.
Yeah, because this was a little bit of planning and a few people, and it's the same thing even with business. It's so much easier to do things when you do them as a collective, rather than doing stuff on your own. I think that's one thing that it took me a little long to realize, but once I did, stuff definitely picked up. On the other side, having great credit is always something that can allot for a lot of great travel hacking, because you have sign-on bonuses, which can be a great thing, but you can't utilize sign-on bonuses unless you have good credit, unless you have great credit management. So it's if you have regular expenses, for example, I just finished my MBA last year here at Georgia State.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And while I was completing it, I was teaching. So I taught in the College of Business and I taught in the College of Education as well. Wow. And so whenever I was teaching, they do tuition reimbursement. And so when you're doing tuition reimbursement, of course, that means they're paying you back the money that you pay for school. So I opened up a business credit card for one of my companies and paid my tuition because the sign-up bonus was like spend, I think it was like $3 or $5 grand over the course of like the first 3 months to like get, it was like 80,000 Scott miles and something else. And I was like, okay, cool. So then I did that. I paid my tuition because my tuition was like $5 grand or so. And then I got my check back like as soon as the semester started. Then I used the check to pay off the card. So now I just got, of course, the card had an annual fee of maybe like $200. So I ended up netting $600 to travel for free. So stuff like that, and just understanding how systems work and utilizing it for your advantage.
Okay, so since we're talking about credit cards and we're all kind of young and we're just getting started, what would be your perfect credit card for a 18-year-old?
Probably if you're in school, it's likely going to be like the Discover It, the school card, that one. I know Wells Fargo has a school card as well, but you just want to get your first one. And if for some reason, because everyone should be applicable if you're in school to get those, but for some reason, some people still get denied, just get a secured card, put down your $200 to $500. Capital One probably has the one that's most lenient, where I think you put down like anywhere between like $50 and $200, and like after 6 months of good usage, they'll give you back your money and give you an unsecured card. It's essentially you just want to get in the game. You can use it responsibly. I tell people, like when I was teaching my students, like use it like a debit card. Like use it, pay it off every single month. Because if you start looking at this like this is extra money in your account, they're gonna mismanage it, and they understand it, which is why the interest rates are normally stupid high. Yeah. And they know that kids and young people don't know about the interest rates in a lot of cases, because the people that know about credit or learned about it from a young age have a very different understanding than many people that look like us, where granted a lot of us are learning this as we're going along and as we're aging, as we're getting into college. Yeah. And so just understanding to utilize it for things you actually need on a day-to-day basis, for whether you're buying food, whether you're buying gas. It's a commuter school, so hella people commute, like understanding to use it for things like that, paid off in full every month, and do that for a couple of years. Yes. You're literally set up perfectly to do whatever you want. And jobs will deny you if you're graduating college if you have bad credit, depending on the level of job you're going for.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yep, because that's one of the things they use to manage their risk. So the same way as banks use credit to look at risk of a lender, they look at it as your risk profile as an individual. Because if you can't manage yourself and your own personal finances, how are you going to manage another company's?
Wow. Guys, if you're getting a credit card, please use it responsibly. You might not get the job you want.
I didn't know that.
Wow. Yeah, yep, there are jobs.
A lot of people don't think about it either. Because I know I try to, like, educate my friends. Like, please, learn about credit. I need a whole little, like, sheet for them and everything. I text it to them. Because it's so important. And I know sometimes our parents don't I know my parents, they didn't forced me to get a credit card, but I was an authorized user on my mom's card since I was like 14 or something like that. So it helps to have that, on your side too.
Definitely.
Perfect.
Definitely. So I know you have so many different endeavors, but I want to talk about Render.
Okay.
Yes.
So I want to know more about it.
Yeah. So Render is essentially where code meets culture. And so we put on so much more than conferences, but our base is we put on a software engineering conference. Here in Atlanta, we just had our first big event, which was last September because of COVID. Stuff's been shut down the past 2 years. Mm-hmm. So we had 350 people come out, had a lot of great sponsors all throughout. And it's not just like coming to learn about tech. It's like learning about it in a way that's cool, a really nice environment. We have really inviting people and also making it fun. So like, I'm sure I can't disclose all the stuff that we're doing for the thing, but we're having our next big conference going to be here in June. And at the very end of it, we're partnering up with Milk and Cookies, and we're putting on a huge music festival as well. And so not only do we have, there's a certain rooftop we're buying out to do something on the first night, and then we have a lot of partnerships with a whole bunch of places throughout the city. So not only are you coming to like learn about tech, we have a lot of people from all levels, but a lot of mid and senior level engineers, which would be, the people that are like from like VP and like a little bit under, but really helping people cultivate relationships throughout that. At the end of our last event, we had 8 people that got jobs within the first week. Just off of people that they met there. And so cultivating environments like that was really, really dope. And then after our first event last September, we did pop-ups at a handful of cities. Went to New York, went to Miami, went to Kansas City. Of course, we did stuff here in Atlanta, and just like brought out a lot of people that are interested in learning about different things like NFTs. We just had a Web 3.0 event that we did over in Buckhead a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, check it out, render.com or renderatl to find out more info and get a ticket. There are some scholarships out there, so check us out. Check out our Twitter, check out Instagram, see if you can get a free ticket to get on there. Otherwise, there's a lot of great information, a lot of great stuff, and a lot of great pop-ups.
That's amazing.
That's perfect, because really nobody's really doing that here in Atlanta, especially
for people that look like us.
Facts.
That's crazy. Zai and I, we were finance majors coming in. We're freshmen still, so this is our second semester. But we just changed to CIS, Computer Information Systems. Yep. And we took a trip to Vegas, winter break.
Okay.
And we went, and so we saw a lot of tech things that were going on in the city. Like, there was this, it was called CEG or whatever.
Let's see.
Yeah, it was CEG if I'm not mistaken, but it's a lot of software engineers that talk about tech and stuff.
CES, Consumer Technology Association 2022.
Okay.
And one thing I didn't see there was like a lot of women actually. And I was like, that has to change.
Yeah.
Because thinking of technology, it's advancing so quickly. Yeah. And we need more people that, especially we need the culture, we need more women, we need more minorities, all of the above, to be at the seat at the table, to be in the conversation. So, this is a little bit off topic, but in topic. What are your thoughts on the metaverse?
Ooh. I initially was someone that was just like, I hang around a lot of old people that invest money. So a lot of them to this day still don't know or understand the utility or why it matters, all this different stuff. And then I also, being the CFO of a tech company, I'm around a lot of engineers that are literally doing design for things within the metaverse, designing NFTs like tokens and like custom experiences, etc. I think it's something that's going to be here to stay, personally. Yes. I think for a lot of reasons that a lot of people don't look at. Have you ever seen The Social Dilemma?
Yes.
Yeah, The Social Dilemma on Netflix.
It's on Netflix, yeah.
Really interesting documentary. A handful of engineers and different people talking about how Facebook was not created by psychologists and was basically to create and hold attention. And unfortunately, one of the reasons I think that the metaverse will be popular outside of utility is the fact that a lot of people do look for escape.
Yes, from their reality.
Correct. And
we were just talking about this.
That's the reason why, alcohol is really popular, drugs are really popular.
Are very popular.
Dating apps and other things, to distract yourself from whatever is going on, in the present reality. And, now you're going to be able to immerse, a way never before. With the screen time, a lot of people turn it off because they hate seeing how much time they actually spend on TikTok, on Instagram. And all those things.
YouTube.
And, I get it. Those things will suck you in because they're curated to understand exactly what you want to look at.
Especially TikTok.
Exactly. And so I think that the metaverse is just going to be that on steroids, but now you're going to be not just swiping. And, even though, you can hear and see it, it's different when you're literally immersed with your eyes and your ears. And I've talked to people that have held meetings in the metaverse, and they're it literally feels like you're sitting in front of someone. We could all have Oculus glasses on right now and be sitting in one of the rooms and talking to it literally feels like you're directly next to somebody in comparison to being on a Zoom meeting, you're looking at someone, whatever. Exactly. And so I think just because of that, I think the metaverse is going to be here to stay, and just being very mindful of being a producer, not a consumer. When it comes to these things, is going to be one of the main differences. Because I got to meet one of the old CTOs of a PE firm that invested in Facebook way long ago, and we were talking about it because he also has an NFT company. And and so we were talking for a couple of hours, and one of the main things we were talking about was do we think, because a lot of people look at NFTs and crypto as is this going to be a thing where a bunch of people make money, right? Because a lot of people look at it you can get rich, you can do this, But the hard reality to a lot of things is it's always going to be a small subsect of people. Granted, there will be plenty of people that look like us that do come up to make money. There are plenty of people that have. I know one dude that he got an NFT for $500.
Let's not even talk about it.
And it's literally over $300,000.
Yeah. Yes.
That is
insane return.
An anomaly though. And so many people are looking to get into things like that and thinking that I can have the same results because of that in comparison to we were talking about real estate a little bit before we got started. With literally just taking small steps to acquire and compound. It's not sexy. It doesn't sound the best. It's not $300,000 in a couple of months that fast, especially with Atlanta's market the way that it is now.
Okay.
But consistency over time is what will really yield more wealth than people throwing, darts at a board, being I could throw $500 at this, $500 at this, and one of them I'll make $1 million off of. It's like playing the lottery essentially. And so just being mindful as far as utility and what you actually want and making sure you're going in for the right reasons, investing for the right reasons, and, taking time, especially if you're young. You have all the time in the world to, like, make both tons of money. But everyone wants to make money fast, so it's neither here nor there.
I agree. Because I know you were just talking about NFTs, and so I own quite a few as well. Mm-hmm. And me and Alexa are looking to build or to have NFTs for our community. Mm-hmm. And she was telling me that you have NFTs. So can you talk about your NFT collection and what do you do with yours?
For sure. And so my whole thing was like utility, right? Because one, I draw like a fifth grader. So first and foremost, I'm not going to be the one that's like designing anything that's like crazy good. But after I actually had a couple of posts that went really viral on TikTok. And I just had like I had a stupid
That's why I missed you.
I had a stupid amount of influx of people that were like in my DMs and messages. And I already have a bunch of people that could be in my DMs and messages, whatever, right? But I figured it would be a good way to start funneling these people in a way that I can help them. Because as much as I'd like to respond to everyone, just realistically I can't. And I have more important things on my priority list to do with my time. And so I created a private Discord so people can get on there. We do like weekly calls and they get access to like get on my calendar directly if they like want to talk about whatever it is they're working on, from raising capital from investors, real estate stuff, development stuff, flip stuff, Airbnb stuff, Turo stuff, like blah, 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 blah. Any and everything I know how to do, basically. And so I created an NFT so that they can purchase the NFT, and then it also gives them 3 months of free access to the Discord. And it also is a hell of a lot cheaper. So instead of like, I think it's like $450 if you're buying it cash, but if you buy the NFT, it's like $100. Of course, you got gas fees, so you got to buy it at a time that it makes sense. So maybe it's like a little less than like half off. And so something like that. Then I also added like another thing that they can get directly on my calendar for 30 minutes. So that way there's utility behind it. Plus, I think I made a decently cool picture. And so, yeah, that was my whole thing behind creating my NFT, was like real utility behind it. Because otherwise, you have to spend a lot of money just to get those same things. But now trying to promote people to like get into that space, learn something differently, get more comfortable with like buying things that actually have utility behind them. Art is super subjective, and I have nothing against all the people that have made money making art, whatever. I just know I'm not an artist, and I know also like I don't really invest in art like that. I'll buy because like I know certain people that create stuff, but other than that, like I really don't care that much as far as art personally. There's other things like when I travel to different places, like I'll buy stuff like in each place, like I'll like hang up and do, but like and I love going to like art museums or whatever, but I'm not gonna be like, I'm gonna spend $200,000 to go and buy like this art piece because I think it would look great like sitting there. But if it was like I could buy this art piece, but it also gives me access to something that could yield me greater results, then that could make sense.
That's perfect.
Exactly. Because knowledge is power when it's applied. So they're getting an investment as well, and they have access to you and to your knowledge and the community as well, right?
Right.
Win-win for everybody.
Correct.
Win-win.
That's amazing.
I was going to ask you, what are some tips for budgeting for college students? Because I know it's kind of rough in college for some people.
Facts.
So how did you get through it? Like, how did you budget? How did you manage money? What do you recommend to other people?
My recommendation would be to really understand and think about, like, what are your goals? Because I feel like that's one of the main reasons that people either rise or fall to, like, whatever systems they're putting in place. Is, like, if you know what you want to do at the end of the year. Like, say you're like, I want to go on this study abroad trip or whatever else, and say that you don't come from a family that can support you, you don't have other scholarships, whatever. But you have a job, you're comfortable enough that you have, let's just say, $700 free every single month. And that's after you've fed yourself, put gas in your car, paid to live on campus or wherever you're staying, whatever the heck. And now you're like, all right, cool, to do this study abroad that I think would allow me to get this great job at the end of everything, or get this other internship that's going to pay me way more money next summer. It costs $6,000 at the end of the year. Now you know you have $700 free every month, but now that you know you need $6,000, you can save $500 a month easier because you know that like there's something so much greater on the other side. I think too often people are trying to budget for the sake of budgeting without actually having goals, and it's like you can plan out for like what you want. If you know you want to travel and like spend money on travel, and the same thing with like Christmas. We know Christmas comes around every single year. Unless you're consistently dating new people, you know what time like their birthday is. So like there's no reason to just be like, oh my gosh, like I'm caught off guard and like I don't know how I'm gonna afford to like pay all this stuff. Like Christmas doesn't come the exact same time every single year. So it's just like plan out for like whatever it is. Like talk to people that can help you set goals if you have not like had experience really setting like smart goals or just goals in general. Because then that really helps you reverse engineer why. It gives you your why behind what you do. Because if you don't have, and you're just like, well, like everyone's saying I should budget and I should save 10% of my paycheck, but like, why does that matter to you? What do you actually want to do later? Like, same thing with like credit. Like, why do you care about having a high credit score when you finish? Is it just so you can say, oh, I have an 800 credit score? Or is it because, like, I know that when I graduate, I'm going to lock up this job offer and I want to buy a house as soon as I finish. I want to get that car as soon as I finish because I can afford it. I want to do all these. I want to start a business, and I know to get a 7A loan from the SBA that I need to have a certain credit score and other things in place. You know, like, how you need to move because you know where you want to go. And so I think setting goals is the biggest thing that will help with, like, whatever budgeting. Because budgeting really isn't hard in a sense. In the beginning, it might be because the hard part is figuring out what your goals are.
Yeah.
And so, but once you figure that out, it's really up to you. And then I think it's that piece of accountability of, like, are you going to do what you said you're going to do, and having people to hold you accountable to that. Because it's one thing to just say it to yourself, but when you have other people that are looking and be like, all right, like, did you save the $500 this month? And then it's just like putting consequences in it. Because you also have to figure out, like, not only what motivates you, but what deters you from screwing up. Because if it's like, if you screw up 2 months in a row and now you got to spend $200 and pay your friend that because you weren't accountable for it. If money is the thing that motivates you, that's going to be something to be like, nope, I'm going to make sure I save my money because, like, I'd rather pay myself than pay you. And so figuring out what that is, finding those accountability groups to keep you in line and just move towards your goal.
That's amazing to have an accountability partner because a lot of people don't have that, especially, like, the community of like-minded people.
Yeah.
And your environment is everything.
Yep.
Everything. Everything.
That's important. Because, like, now that me and Alexa are business partners, we have to keep each other accountable for everything.
Yeah.
And you need someone to just say, hey, did you do this? Did you do that? So
Exactly.
it's important.
And this is my first partnership, and I had to break a lot of the ties of trying to do everything by myself or thinking you know it all. And I know that you're in different partnerships with other people, and that's how you actually built your wealth, or you would say a lot of things quicker and better.
Yep.
So did you have to break any bad habits or understandings when you got into partnerships, or it just came easy?
Yeah, it kind of came easy. It was simple enough because, I mean, like I was saying, when you understand what your goals are, it's a lot easier to do everything else. And, like, if you know that you have certain goals of things you want to accomplish, if you know that you want to complete 7 real estate deals on a course of a year and you know that you only have enough capital to do 1, but if you partner up with the right people, you can get 5 done. Is it a really hard decision to be like, I'm going to partner up with the right people and do all the deals, and then we can all make money together, right? Because compounding, right? So once you figure out, like, you know, money is really a thing, it's not real, first and foremost, and it literally just transfers, quote unquote, in the investing world from dumber hands to smarter ones, unfortunately. But once you realize that, you kind of get to focus on, all right, like, what would make me more attractive to bring money to me? Because no money ever leaves the earth, you know, outside of, you know, we have Bezos going to space and people like that. But outside of that, all the money's still here. And so it's like, as you hear, and, like, I've been on calls. I was literally on a call. I've been on 2 calls this week with different stuff. People talking about casually spending, like, $1 billion on different stuff. No money leaves the earth. So as far as, like, people talking about they can't find $5,000 to do a deal, et cetera, then you have to analyze, who are you and why would someone want to put that money in your hands? And then figure out what you need to do to become that person.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that plays in a lot of knowing yourself.
Correct. Yeah. It's easy to be like, I can't do it. It's harder to be like, why can't I do it? And what do I need to change so I can?
That's true.
So self-awareness and analyzing.
Evaluate yourself.
Evaluate yourself.
You gotta grow. You gotta grow. You gotta change. Like, yeah. I wouldn't, the kind of money I get to play around with on different deals now, I wouldn't invest in myself when I was 20. I wouldn't have understood what to do with it. Like,
It took you 6 years.
it takes time. It really takes time. But just depending on the level and, like, what you're focusing on, like, and that could look differently depending on the area and, like, field that you're also in. Because, I mean, we have tech founders that end up exiting at 21, at 25 and make $1 billion. So it's like, all this stuff happens. Like, it's just about figuring out, what's your realm? What do you want to do? Why does it make it attractive? Why does someone want to do business with you? Like, people are all inherently selfish one way or another. People like doing business with me because they know I'm going to take care of stuff. I'm going to get it done. I'll make sure everybody makes money.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, like,
that's the goal. Yeah. Make some money. Let's do it.
You'll always make money making other people rich.
Elaborate on that.
Literally, that's it. That's the statement. That's the bar. That's the tweet. Like, that's it. That's literally it. Like, because if you're someone enjoyable to be around, you actually take care of business. You do ethical business, or depending on who you're dealing with, unethical business. Because there's plenty of people that traffic drugs, children, all that kind of stuff. And let's not pretend like these aren't billion, if not trillion-dollar industries, even within Atlanta's market, which is one of the hugest trafficking places in the world, literally. Anyways, people do business with people that are like-minded, or people they want to do business with, but people that help them make money. If I was like, hey, like, I'd like to, no one's going to say, I want to invest money in you because I want to lose the money. Like, nobody. But if you're like, hey, like, I'd like you to invest this money and I'm looking to give you, you know, this kind of return. Of course, like, you should never guarantee stuff. And in some cases you can, once you build up certain amounts of wealth. Basically, you can structure deals in a way of like, that's the same thing with banks. Like, they'll give you certain amounts of money if you can collateralize it. So the same thing with investors. Like, so with one deal or one developer that I worked with, the money that I put up, I made him collateralize against his net worth. And he had 20-something million. So I wasn't worried about the money that I gave him because, like, I knew I could. I literally had been on deals and projects with him where I watched him make $200,000-300K on stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay, the money's there, so let me just make it make sense for me.
Exactly.
Everything's negotiable.
Okay, so since you have a lot of businesses going on, you have your personal life and everything else. How do you balance everything and get everything done within your 24 hours?
Priorities. That's priorities is definitely the main thing. I think balance isn't about doing everything; it's about doing what matters. And you learn that like as you scale, and also realizing the trade-offs look a lot differently as you do stuff. Like when I was young, like when I really wanted to get into business, like there was times I was working like 5 jobs, working 80-hour weeks. It took me like doing that in a month, maybe I made like $5,000, which is funny. Like looking back on it now, like how fast I can make $5,000. But it's like really understanding like that was a very easy trade-off because one, I didn't have assets, like I didn't have businesses, I didn't have people depending on me to like pay them and support their families, all this other kind of stuff, right? In comparison to like as you translate over to another side where it's like you have so many things that are there. When someone's asking for my time, it's really like, what is the trade-off? And the cost is a lot higher. So understanding like as you grow and as you scale, the trade-offs are a lot harder because you have so much more, not necessarily like to lose, but to give up. Your opportunity cost becomes higher. So when you're young, it's really easy to be like, oh yeah, bet, like I'm gonna go and I'm gonna grind, I'm gonna work this job and this job and this job, and then you don't have anything. So that's a very easy trade-off. When you already have things that are there, that are in motion, that are producing, that are doing well, taking on new things, it's a very different scope of like how you look at it, how you look at relationships as well, and like what you can lose like on the other end, because it's a marathon, not a sprint. And so really being grounded and having regular check-ins with yourself every month, every couple months, twice a year, once a year, whatever works for you and your schedule, to really look at where am I, what am I doing, what do I need to do better, what matters to me, and then shifting according to that. Because like what matters to you now is not going to matter in a year. It's not going to matter in 2 years, in 3 years. If you're consistently growing and moving the needle, like all those things continually change. So
wow, that's amazing.
Wow. I know you're only 26, but I feel like your
mind
is like, wow.
I hang out with a lot of old people.
That's what you got to do.
Facts, nah.
What would you say is your biggest accomplishment? I know you have so much left to live, of course. But so far, because you said you're always growing, right now, what would you say is your biggest accomplishment?
I would say one of my favorite ones is keeping kids in school in Africa. That's definitely one of the favorite ones. Like, yeah, making money's cool. Like, but you get to a point that doesn't phase you the same. Like, it's very exciting. Like, I can remember making like my first 1,000, like your first 10,000, like making your first 100,000, like even like touching your first million. Like all these things like are very exciting. But like, it's way more exciting making your first 1,000 than like making your first million, which is what's very weird. But you see it like as you scale and like do stuff like, but having impact, changing people's lives is way more impactful than making money, unless you're using the money to make impact. In my eyes, anyways, in my humble opinion. But yeah, like seeing the way that people light up, like when you're able to do, like, for example, so one of my old interns that I met here, he stopped working for me, but he does a lot of charity events. And so the charity basketball event that he was doing, he asked me, could I come and speak? I was like, yeah, I think I was in town. I was like, yeah, I can stop by for a bit. And so I go, talk briefly, and then like I'm an avid basketball player too, but like I had other things to do later that evening, so I couldn't commit to like playing at the game. So stayed, talked, was talking junk on the mic while people were playing, all this kind of stuff. And so when I was leaving, two of the guys saw me get into my car, and they asked me like, oh, like, you know, like you're like our age. Like, what do you do? Like, da da da. I was like, I mean, like, what do you really want to know? And he was like, well, like, how do I get this car? I was like, you want, like, that's not a short answer. Like, that's not something that I can just be like, yeah, that's not something that I can just tell you in 2 seconds and just be like, oh, bet, like, got it, bet, all right, it's done. And so I was like, well, I got like 2 hours before I need to go, like, wherever I was gonna go. I was gonna do something else, but I was like, I have something hard that I need to do in a couple hours. So I was like, cool, let's talk. So sat in the parking lot. We ended up talking for maybe like an hour and a half. And so it's so interesting, like the two different like sides of the guys. So one guy was really big on, like, he didn't want to go to school. His father was a PhD, parents both accomplished, make great money, this, that, and the third. But he's like, I really just want to go to, like, trade school, make some money, buy a house, do whatever. Like, that's American a good dream. Life to me. Right. But he's like, I don't want to go to school. Like, my dad, really pushed me to go to school because his dad has a PhD. Yeah. Thanks to even that, my parents had multiple master's degrees. My mom just finished her PhD. So, like, wow. I get it. Like, shout out to Dr. Mommy. Man. In comparison to, like, the other guy that was in the car, and he was just talking about how he basically didn't have, like, any of the same, like, family support from a sense. He was literally trying to figure out, like, he's house hopping, trying to figure out, like, where to sit, like, literally driving Uber and Lyft to, like, try to eat, but then, like, insurance is lapsed, and he's like, I went in an episode, and, like, I ended up spending all the money I had. I lost my job during COVID, and, like, I had just bought a new car, and, like, all this stuff that like, was showing me his credit score and, like, just showing, like, how it was screwed up just because of, like, how life had kind of happened. And he wasn't doing it in a sense of, like, because he asked for anything. He was literally just like, this is where I am. I'm trying to figure out what I need to do to get to the next place because I got a new job that I'm going to be starting up in, like, a month. Basically, I just got to figure out, like, how do I get to, like, the end of the month, right? So we finished talking. I asked to, like, exchange contact info with them. So as I'm leaving, I get in my car, like, get out of the car, stop talking to them. I go, and then I send him enough money so that he can last the next month. So I was like, go reinstate your insurance, like, go pay whatever bills you need to go pay, go put gas in your car, go take care of what you need to take care of, and just send me your first check. And I don't mean, like, send me the money, but I mean, like, just send me the check so I know that you actually made it. And he made it. And so sometimes people need a hand up, not a handout. And so being able to look at stuff and figure out, like, who you're going to invest in and, like, make those sacrifices for it, because it's a sacrifice. Like, those are the things that make a fulfilling life, in a sense.
Oh, definitely.
That's amazing.
Yeah. That's amazing.
I love that.
That's so good. A lot of people forget about the people that, not necessarily at the bottom, but they're on the come up.
Yeah. And
you never do. Yeah. You always help somebody else.
Yeah. Granted, some people are very lazy, and so that's a very different thing. But you could tell I could tell from the conversation that, like, he was hungry to have it. He just didn't know where to go or, like, what to do. But he literally only needed to make it 30 days. But he made it, and he's actually doing pretty good now. So
that's great. Congrats to him.
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
Amazing. Well, we want to say